Kargar, we had our NCCA last summer. For the first competencies, or we have subdivided the competency, biological and so on and so forth. The experts from the CNU, suggested that we have to go on local. So whatever stories we have, let's say for example Naga, you have to use the stories in Naga. When you are in Karkar, you have to use the stories in Karkar, Bulinawan, and whatever places it is. Because we are, the Department of Education is also collecting evidences, MOVs for localization and contextualization. So as much as, if this is possible, then we have to go localization and contextualization. Kabantay mo ma'am, na ang tribok sa unang when patuma, na siya group na lihatag per municipality. In fact, we also have that in Karkar. It was distributed per school. Lihatag siya, so you can use those as references. The history, other stories about the place, say, municipality of Karkar.
Are you referring to the provincial histories or a history project?
Pero if this is applicable, if this is applicable, so if this is not applicable, as much as possible, if there are stories that can be found in the locality, then we can make use of those.
So you're saying that yung Cebuano, may mga Karkar, dagan kaya yung magtuwas Karkar, kaya dagan may writers sa Cebuano.
I think for Karkar, you're probably using Jerry Alfafara's book, Town History Project. Heidi also happened to write for Town History. Toledo City. Hannah for Mual. So we can also use these as resources.
It is a complete volume, 55 volume, all towns. Certain because it's really it's expensive and only limited copies. Cebuano studies, it's there. Yes.
You just have to see whether the particular town history, the writer for the town history also included those. Supposedly, appearance requirement include mga folklore or folk tales and folk literature. For example, sa akong Malbual, I included a story of babae sa buhat. Ginanan siya o babae sa buhat sa Malbual. But their story is very, very similar to Maria Cacao. So kung imagine, si Maria Cacao, pag-abot sa Argao, ginanan siya, ibinyagan din siya. In fact, ang ngalan Maria Cacao, Spanish mo din ang origin. Maria is Spanish name. Cacao was introduced by Spanish. Pero sa Malbual, luyo-luyo rin ang Argao Malbual. Ang Malbual, wala pa siya ngalan. She doesn't have a name. She's called Babae sa Buhat, which I translated as the Lady of Good Works. Kay huwag ako, pahulang. Agay po siya cave, ito sa Malbual. So, feeling na po, my interpretation now is, maybe that cave in Malbual, gusto cave dito sa Argao, or somewhere. So, these are interesting takes, and you can use the town histories as a lead for you to know whether there are such kind of folklore for your particular locality.
Can I detail ang historical data papers there? Asa kanina? Asa sa Cebuano studies? Check the Cebuano historical data papers. Every town sa naso? Not that all. Just check. Sa corner. Why not urban legends? Is it too more? Depende sa inyo. you will be given a lot of resources also, leads on where you can find materials for your classes in the future. So sit back and relax and just see where you are, some more resources anymore. But the Cebuano Study Center is also a good place to be. Lagi, ang 21st century, ako ito yung ibasa, ma'am. 21st century must begin 2000 to 1. Most of that 21st century. For those teaching humanities and a little bit of arts and design, na may creative writing, you can use also Cebuano samples. Mula ikatong adaptive literary forms, you adapt literary form pagkikimawa and then i-contemporize. Contemporize yung modern na sentiments, same form. Okay. Yes, sir. We'll have one more. Yes, sir.
Because I thought, as a teacher of literature, we get overwhelmed with Western material. Even we have bundles and bundles of Cebuano literature. We don't have a place in our classroom. I don't know what's the point.
I think, sir, there is this is on a personal experience. Because I was so, because the kind of education I had in Western tayo. And so, the standards na to Western side. So when you read yung mga ipagsulat sa Cebuano, usahay makita ka na yung isa lahi ang Cebuano yun. You know, nakit kaayo ko ato ang mga estudyante would feel or would see less of our Cebuano works because hindi siya parehang standard sa exactly. It's time we put in the Cebuano. And I think it's a good move though, sa depend. Nakukuha naman sa region. Diba, ang sa nagay ng panuntiyon road, local is global. And kanang...
My impression is, all these years that I've been promoting Cebuano as my personal
And now it should not.
My impression is, we don't seem to be proud of our own language. In fact, we admire people who speak better English rather than better Cebuano.
We are not saying that Cebuano should be, English should be set aside. It's global for me. It's still the global language. It's the international language. But we have to know also our very own Cebuano. Muna, sir, pride. The sense of identity and the pride of our place. That's missing in a lot of our students. So it's time we put in the Cebuano. And we, as the advocates, should be the first one to do that.
Actually, behind the Russian present activity.
Okay, who's from DepEd? What is behind it? What's with the move down that? Because I think it's also in tune with, in line with the MTV MFT, sir. We're letting our young ones, the younger ones, from the basic good education, learn MTV MFT. Supposedly it begins there. Kan DepEd, kinsa mga taga-DepEd na ko nung nag-move. Yes, ma'am. Can you, well, that's our question, sir. Sige, Kibi.
Hi. The question was, nakalimutan ko.
what's with the move ko nung nga to region na ba? Focus sa literature sa definition.
I am actually teaching in the junior high, and I'm teaching grade 7 English, so that's Philippine literature. And in our textbook, though we are given textbook and DLPs, everything is prepared. We do see these literatures or Visayan literatures from different parts of Region 7. So, ang push sa DepEd is through that track. I think it is also a receiving endpoint of the MDB in elementary, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. I initially invited a master teacher in the elementary from our district because I also want to share this to her and to echo it out to our elementary teachers, because the elementary teachers are having difficulty transcending or transporting the stories in Bisaya to our grade 3 students or the grade 2s. So I see this as a receiving end ba, that the regionalism is being recognized and received at the junior high level. Hopefully, I think also in the senior high level, it is being also received there in their end for the humanities, di ba natin Hams? I'm sorry, yung lang ko kay ko, wala pa akong naka-study with sa curriculum sa senior high. But as what I'm trying, was what I observed sa ato ang sa atong curriculum ug sa ato ang literature, it's being pushed. And I think it's also about defining our identity sa atong gisugod na og turok sa atong mga bata.
For the question of Sir, I have this is only my perception, Sir, because 21st century is the point of new behavior. This is already a trend that we must assert our own identity and locality. So even in business, in the business world, nandiyan tayo gitawag na karon ng new behaviors that people enjoy more to let their lives be public, or they would like to inform the world about each of our lives. So it also, I think in my point of view, along with it is our own culture. So it's the new behavior of the new time in the 21st century. So it is very important as well that we take part of our own literature. New behavior.
Okay. For me, it's very simple. If we do not know our own, what we can do, we won't be proud of ourselves, and we will feel less compared to other. Oh, hello, you get less, diba? So, yeah, we've always been in the margins. Now it's time to shine. Simple.
Yeah, I think just to a bit of a sort of a more pagkamay na naman ba. I think this is in line with the current trust of not only the local government but the national government rather, but I think the government itself they're slowly trying to make the Filipino become whole. Kaya ang ato itong pagsabot sa Filipino sa una kay when you say Filipino kay Victoria. So nowadays, there is a current thrust to make sure that the Filipino encompasses the entire Philippines. So by doing that, in order for us to do this, first we must regionally know who we are first. And then by that, we can conduct communication with each other regions to therefore synthesizing an entirely whole Filipino. So dili na siya Tagalog lang or kuan lang, but this time, Filipino naging siya sa Filipino. And I think there's also a current movement to include other, hinahinay na include ang mga languages from other regions into the Filipino language. So there's like an adoption or an adaptation of Cebuano words being used na in Filipino. So I think that's the same thing that's happening with literature or the teaching of regionalistic literature as well.
All right, thank you everyone. You want to add? Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Palapar, for that very wonderful and insightful lesson on pre-colonial literature. And so for now, I would like to call you on stage for awarding the certificate to be awarded by Mr. TJ Pasco of the NCCA, Mr. Rafi Polinar of CSC, Mr. Nino Loyola, and Mrs. Sonrisa Samson of the Department of Communications, Linguistics, and Literature. A round of applause, please.
Certificate of Recognition. This certificate is presented to Heidi Emmy Palapar for her lecture on Cebuano literature of the pre-colonial period during the Teaching Cebuano Literature, a seminar for educators, given the 16th day of July 2018, signed by Dr. Hope Yu, Chair of National Committee on Literary Arts. And also may we request everyone to come up on stage for a group photo. So group photo lang tagaan kay si Ma'am Heights na pamugod siya trabaho kasi wala na siya sa group photo in last day. So may request everybody to come up on stage. And Sir Francis, thank you.
He has translated some works, primarily for the Clarion Communications Foundation Incorporated. He also co-authored Integración, the urbanization of Cebu in archival records of the Spanish colonial period, and he obtained his Master of Arts in History from Silliman University. Please help me welcome Mr. Trizer Dale Mansueto. A round of applause.
May hapon sa tanan. I hope na busog na tanong niya. Tingali, kini giligid ni siya kanang allegory atau presentation karon kay ang ato ra presentation karon and just a bit of warning is purely religious, no, because when you talk about Spanish era, ang ila ring influence was actually to promote religion. So dili kay pareha sa discussion kanina ni Heidi Palapar na ay pagka kuan ba, sometimes na ay pagka erotic, no? Na ay pagka kuan. Alright. So, magsugod na lang ta. Alright, so ang atong objectives for this afternoon, mag-start sa atong objectives no, is to recall the literature forms and characteristics during the pre-contact era, and then to learn the reasons for the shift in literature forms during the pre-contact era and the Spanish era. Then to know the literature forms during the Spanish era. Nato yung main purpose for this afternoon is to know the literature forms during the Spanish era. Then to identify the characteristics of Filipino-Spanish literature, and then to cite examples of these literature forms in Cebuano, because that's what we are going to teach this afternoon. Alright, so review. So, para dili ta magluka, okay, we just had our lunch. what were the different literature forms during the pre-contact era? Anyone? Wala na, nag-amiss ka na, katugo na tayo. Somebody is pointing here in front, no, ninyo. Can you please help us? What were those literature forms for those who just attended this afternoon ba? What were those literature forms discussed earlier this morning by Ms. Ray?
Yes, sir, you mean the format?
Yes, yes.
Maganda malitaw, the tikmo, saloma, ulilisyo, yes.
Okay.
For the future.
Thank you, Ninyo. Then what are the characteristics? Kung sa may mga characteristics, ano nila? For instance, kung sa may characteristics sa Polilisi. Anyone? From our students from St. Catherine's College. No, they traveled all the way to Cebu City to join us. No, we have students. Anyone? Kung sa may characteristics sa Polilisi. Alright? And then? Yes, Arisa Mike tayo, para makuha siya. So, ang atong estudyante nun, minaw nila ini. Kuwaya ang atong mga hingkod, nagtabi ka kanina. Okay, yes.
So the policy was some kind of a game where it includes the handkerchief na mura ka na pwede sila ito magamit sa oral recitation where kung ato mo lang sa certain student, ay siya ang speak.
Okay.
And then, if you cannot answer or like, or short ka, kung sa iyo. So, most of the
Okay, how about the balito?
Balito is like a conversation, murag magtugod-tugod sila dahil kanang mostly sa between a girl and a boy na siya.
Okay, very good. No? So basically, magtubag-tubag sila. No, so ating mga estudyante nanaw nila yun. Alright, so arin na ta sa atong topic karong hapuna, no? So actually, ang katong basically, if you're going to think about it, all those katong i-present ni Heidi ganina, wala pa gid siya na-involve og religion, no? Kung naang may religion, mahulog siya for us, we treat that as more about superstition. Diba today, in our own lens, we consider them as superstition. But then, when the standards came, there was a shift, no? Nga naman, nausap man ang mentality because it was also a time for the introduction of Christianity. Kamusta gani niabot si Magellan? 1521. No, niya aron dili ta matuka. Pila naman na katuig since niabot si Magellan sa Pilipinas? Pila man? Wapay 500. No, wala pa'y 500. We are just, imagine that today is 2018 na gutaron. So we're moving towards 500 years of the discovery of the Philippines. 497 years because we will be celebrating our 5th centenary in 2021. Alright, so ang emphasis yun sa Spanish era was actually to spread Catholicism. Na naman, the purpose was to emphasize docility, no, to colonial rule, no, para ang mga tao ni atong panahon na they would become obedient to the state. No, so basically, mo gina siya. First is to introduce Christianity. Second was so that people will become docile to colonial rule. So primarily, gi-introduce ang Spanish nga kaning literature, no, in order to prevent uprisings motivated by religious nativism. Because if you're going to revisit your history, naaman to'y several figures, no, in history nga nag-revolt sila against the Spaniards all because they wanted their own religion, no, the native religion to be given focus. No, so ang atong example na nila, like si Daguhoy Revolt, what was the reason why Francisco Dagohoy of Bohol kanang revolted against Spain. If we can recall our history, what was that? It was simple. Nga naman, it's only because his brother-in-law was denied what? Oh, Christian burial. No, so mautos siyang that launched the longest revolt in Philippine history. So they say it lasted for 80 years. No, and why would it last for 80 years? It's because if you go to Bohol, naamon sila yung mga mountainous kayo na region sa Bohol. Kaya di Manila madakpan, no, ang katong mga nag-revolt. Alright, so another example is murag habit na siya end sa Spanish colonial era was won by Apolinario de la Cruz. What was the other name for this revolt? Ala, what na? Nangatog na yun. What was the other name? Diba? Apolinario de la Cruz was also known as Hermano Pule. No? And it also had a religious it also had a religious reason. Why? Because Hermano Pule wanted to join the congregations at the time, not the Dominicans, but he was denied entry to the Dominicans. Nga naman, because at that time, there was a rule known as limpieza de sangre, no, purity of blood. No, you cannot become a nun or you cannot become a friar if you are not a Spaniard. No, limpieza de sangre. So, muna siya nahitabo kang Apolinario de la Cruz. So basically, he revolted against the Spaniards because kanang nagtukod man to siya o organization, and the name of the organization was Cofradia de San Jose. Alright. So, as a result, the missionaries had to Christianize literature, no, in order to, what akong gipoint out din develop good Christians. And then second is, so Filipinos will not revolt against Spanish rule. So, according to Lumbera, which was also the reference used by Ms. Heidi earlier, the main purpose of schooling was to impart the fundamentals of Christian doctrine to the children who would in time take over from the adults as loyal subjects of the monarch and devoted flock of the Catholic Church. No, so basically, that's the reason why atong hisgutan karong adlaw, it has something to do with religion. No? Wala, gini kayo siya kanang secular na kuan. Okay, so how was this done? No, so this was done through catechism. Unya, besides catechism, which actually where ang catechism you are taught no, the rudiments of Christianity or Catholicism, you are also taught good manners. No? And then, giunsa man siya? In what way? Through performances. Nga naman, basically because at that time, many people could not read or could not write. No? Yeah, another problem is that there were not many publications at the time. No, so basically, they imparted lessons on religion through performances. And then, second was through writing or manuscripts. And then, the third would be printing. Because dili man kayo daghan ang libro na na-publish sa una. In fact, if you can remember, the first book to be published had something to do with religion, and that's Doctrina Christiana, no, which was published by the Dominicans in the year 15, no, around 1596, no, 1596. No, so let's now talk about literature in Cebu. No, so performance of the life of a certain saint was done as early as the 1600s in honor of Bishop Pedro Agurto de Cebu. No, so in that way, ilang ipakita ang life sa Santa para ma-indoctrinate ang mga tao. No, basically this has had something to do with hagiography. And then during that time, since this was just the beginnings of Spanish colonization, they already translated prayers into Cebuano. So the earliest recorded kanang prayer no in Cebuano was published in 1603 by Pedro Chirino. And then of course, mura siya, lahi na siya sa atong prayer karon. So it says, maghimaya ka Maria na puno ka sa grasya, ang Ginoong Diyos anaa kanimo, which is correct. But then there's a difference. Giriyeg ka uyamo sa bababihon takat. No, so I think na wrong grammar lang tingali ni siya pag transcribe siguro nila, nasayot lang kay mura siguro ni gidayig ka uyamot sa tanang babae, no? And then girayig man ang imong anak Jesus, wa bagay si. Then Santa Maria inahan sa Dios, igampo mo kami makasasala unya ug sa among kamatay. Amen, Jesus. No, so that's the earliest published prayer no, in 1603 by Pedro Chirino. So, kinahanglan, sugdan man na siya sa mga pag-ampo before they eventually teach catechism. So, what were the works in Cebuano? So, basically, what we mentioned, prayers, no? Maghimaya ka Maria, mahanamo tingali, no? Kanang himaya sa amahan, di ba? And then, you also have we will also tackle in this lecture dramas, no? Especially Karkar sa Dinambay. Kay sikat man kayo ni ang Dinambay sa Karkar. And then you also have novenas, including the Gosos, no? Di ba, ika-January, kita mga Katoliko, ika-2 na to sa Santo Niño, mag-isa-isa nito sa pagwara-wara nito sa Pongkamot, no? That's the Gosos. No, so the Gosos is also was also published no more late 18th century na. And then you have the Book of Conduct. Wala na ko natin diri is we also have the Cebuano Passion and of course the Daigun. Okay, they are also works in Cebuano man. So literature in print. According to Blancas de San Jose, its purpose was to allow the friars to expand their work beyond the spoken word. Nga naman, kay ang friars sa mga fraile sa una, gamay raman kay sila. So to speak, para mo expand na ilang trabaho, kinahanglan sila mag-publish. No? So diha na itong na-feel na nila ang need na mag-publish na gid sila o mga works. No? So this is according to Damon Woods. And then, printing was used to evangelize. So, kipaw na tana. Now, let's now talk about Linambay. No, so, mangutan na ta, anong gitawag man na siya Linambay? Naba din Lambay na? Yes, ma'am. Perhaps she can share to us kung unsay origin sa name, why it's called Linambay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beverly Padin. I am from Carter City College and actually a Calcaran.
So, meaning kung ano din expert din sa Linambay.
I will be very happy to share because I am now finishing my thesis on Linambay.
Oh. Okay. Sige ma'am, kung saan may origin sa name sa Linambay?
Linambay is actually defined by Rizal Mujares as this is the movement of the sword duelist in the Linambay. So, the drama is called Linambay. It's because of the sideward motion of the lambay or yes, the motion gitawag siya ng Linambay. Originally, this is played 9 nights based, according to Sir, as a very significant remnant of the Spanish literary influence in the Philippines, especially in Cebu, is it is played 9 days, fit to the 9-day novena of fiesta.
Okay.
So, kung siya Linambay, kaya ang movement niya is mura na siya kanang Linambay, sideward.
Oh.
Ay,
Sampol ko no. Sampol ko, pinagtuot lang kita ma'am. Sampol sila
Sir,
ma'am.
I am still in the process of looking for this original Linambay duelist.
Dr. Hope you will demonstrate to us.
You know, the movement of the lambay, it doesn't go forward. It moves to the side. So that will mimic the movement of the, you have two groups. What was the first group?
Moro.
The Moros, and the other group was the
Christianos.
Christians. So when they fight, they would do the sideward movement, and then do that before they do the, what you call this, forward motion. The crab will not go through a direct line. You watch the crab on the shore, even the hermit crabs, they move sidewards before they move forward. So it's the same thing on stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Hope you. Mas likod yun din tato, imog yung i-demonstrate ng po. Okay.
Actually, we have a plan. I don't know if some of you are interested later. We plan to revive the Linambay but make it modern for local and foreign consumption.
Okay, thank you for that. So ang Linambay is actually known in Philippine history as komedya or the moro-moro. Diba? Naata sana sa Bisaya, ay kung muro-muruhi ka. Diba? Tingnan mo sa inyo lula, ay kung muro-muruhi. Kung mukoto kayo nyo na, mauna na siya muro-muro. No, that's actually that's derogatory. No? Because kanang ato mang mukot kay now ang mga Moro. No, the Moros are happy people ba yan? No, so it is a highly patterned play that can run for 9 nights. No, kaya ganong 9 nights man because usually ang kanisang Linambay is kanang drug stage, no, during the 9-day novena. But according to Sir Resil, napagyan ko na longer pag-ibuno nga, it would take mga 15 days. Inana. No, depende lang kuno na sa budget kuno sa katong nag-sponsor sa mga Linambay sa una. Alright, so it can involve a cast of 100 people and the plot is drawn from European metrical romances. It is rendered in the vernacular with heavy Spanish mix. No, so binisaya siya pero naa siya yung mga kinatsila. No? And then it usually revolves around war, love, supernatural enchantments set in distant foreign kingdoms. So, unsa may masulod sa atong una-una, if we are not very familiar with Linambay, very simple. You have Florante at Laura, di ba? Mo man na siya. Mura ra man gyapon na siya o mura ra gyapon na siya komedya or muro-muro. Basically, ang iyang storyline. So, it is said to have originated from combates de Moros y Cristianos or folk drama in Spain. Then the first komedya in Cebu was staged sometime in the 18th century. Unya, ang kini ko nung asa siya stage was near the port area, according to Sir Resil. So the earliest Linambay can be traced back to as early as 1876. No, so mo inana ang itsura sa Linambay. No, so tingali ang ma-identify man nato ang Moro ana, di ba? Kini Kini siya. Okay, basta kanang duha na naa sa luyo, those are Moros, no? In Linambay. Okay, so unsa may best example nato sa Linambay? We have the Alimpatar. Unya, if you are going to look at your kits, no, it's actually found sa inyong kit. No, taas-taas kita siya, and then of course, it has been translated into English by Sir Muhares, so that you would not have any difficulty, no, in understanding kung unsa gisultian na. Because sometimes ang Linambay is rendered in archaic Cebuano. No, so the oldest known example of Linambay, there is an extant script owned by Manuela Sarmiento, Viuda de Osmeña of Carcar, and that manuscript happens to be in the Cebuano studies now. At the opening of the Carcar City Museum, naapagin sila ng uban ng mga script sa Linambay. No, these are now in the possession of families in Carcar. And then it is on Alimpatar is actually on Moro-Christian conflict with romantic adventures of noble princess. So, tanawa na lang na ninyo ha, ang naa sa atong sa atong kit. Because it's there. It's the entire appendix. No, okay, now Okay, so karon ang challenge nato is unsa man ni nato pag modernize ang linampay. Yes, let's listen to Dr. Hopio.
Actually, I have a plan because it's supposed to be 9 days. Can you imagine? In the old times, people loved going to Karkar. It was a cultural center of Cebu. They would go there like for a long vacation, at least 9 days. Every night, the Linampay would be played, continuation, from this part to that part for tonight. To be continued tomorrow night, and the next night, and the next night, and the next night, until it culminated in the 9 nights. Fast forward to the 21st century, we don't have that luxury. We sure hope that we did. So how do we condense this form and revive it? Because it's a very interesting form. One of my ideas is this. There has to be a cultural center in Cebu with a big stage. A stage that will be as deep as this one. Lawak and wide. So we will have several panels that can go up and down, and the stage will remain the same. Of course, the people will be out there. We cannot do 9 nights, so we will do 1 night. 1 night, and normally in the Linampay, you have 4 different kingdoms. 4 different kingdoms, each with its own monarch, prince, princess, and they will ally themselves to each other or they will fight with each other. And